Hi everyone! In this video I'm going to be taking an in-game look at the Anvil Ballista, and giving some of my initial impressions of it. We've already seen a number of ground vehicles get introduced into the game, which includes a series of gravlev bikes from Drake, Ayapoa, and Origin. The Tumbril Corporation has been single-handedly responsible for producing the Cyclone production line, as well as a tank, and a series of motorbikes. We also have the Ursa Rover from RSI, and one awesome little glorified golf cart from Grey Cat Industrial. But the Ballista is the first ground vehicle to be manufactured by Anvil Aerospace, and represents a whole new level in ground-to-air base warfare. The Ballista comes in 3 flavors. There's the default model, which is characterized by a muted green paint job. This version has the most traditional military look to it, and seems to be the perfect choice if you're going to be staging your ground assault on some kind of forest moon, or some other verdant location like you'd find among the dwindling forests of Hurston. The Snowblind livery is a special edition skin that has a white and gray camouflage pattern to it. It seems to be best suited for snowy environments like the kind that you'd find on moons like Cellin or Illyria. The Dunestalker tactical camouflage is another limited edition skin that's exclusively available to members of the Chairman's Club. It has a 2-tone sandy color to the chassis that looks like it would be best at home in a desert environment, like the kind that exists on certain moons like Daymar. It should be noted that these skins are just cosmetic changes, and they do not affect the statistics or the abilities of the Ballista in any way. For personal defense, the Ballista is armed with 2 size 2 Gatling guns. These weapons are mounted onto a turret that's located onto the roof of the vehicle, and it can be manually operated by the driver, or it can be controlled remotely. When the turret's being remotely controlled, it'll command a 360-degree view of the area that surrounds the vehicle. And much like the Ursa Rover, this mode allows you to move in one direction while being able to aim and fire in another. Personally, I love driving while in this mode, which allows you to have a wider arc to fire the guns in, and it allows the driver a better view of the surrounding area. It just feels like a great compromise that falls somewhere in between the 2 other camera options, which gives me all the visibility of the third-person camera without breaking the immersion. The missile turret is controlled through a second operating station that can be found in the rear of the vehicle. It's armed with 8 size 5 missiles, and an additional pair of size 7 torpedoes. That's a missile loadout that's on par with bombers like the Gladiator and the Harbinger. Just like with the guns, the missile turret can spin in a 360-degree arc, allowing it to fire on anything that can be detected within the surrounding sky. Missile turrets were previously something that they've not been able to do before, and this is the first time that it's been seen in operation within the game. Having this feature in-game paves the way for future ships to be developed with a remote missile system like the Ballista has. I've often wanted to see remote turret gunners be given the ability to acquire a lock-on that the pilots can use when firing their missiles. But this is one step better. It's more straightforward in how it works, and it's going to have less edge cases associated with it. It also hints at some point in the future for us to possibly be able to swap a ship's remote turret out for a missile turret. Anvil is starting to develop a rather distinctive and interesting looking signature cockpit that echoes in the designs of the Terrapin, the Valkyrie, and is also reflected in the look of the Ballista. The interior is deceptively spacious looking once you've stepped inside, and the walls are lined with items like weapons racks, some interesting access hatches where a number of components are housed, and a rather ominous looking do not pull lever that just begs to be pulled. On the opposite end of the vehicle is the missile turret control station. All the functions that involve the missile turret are controlled through it, and you need to have somebody operating this station in order to lock onto an enemy target and fire the missiles off. One of the best features about having its ordnance mounted in this way is that it allows you to detect and fire on anything that's surrounding the vehicle, regardless of what direction the rig's pointing in. Having 2 people manning both stations simultaneously is an absolute necessity if you're going to fire a missile while moving, or if you end up being attacked while in transit, which is something that I've already encountered. In this one instance I was alone, and the enemy bomber had me in their sights with a target lock on my vehicle. I'd already luckily made it back to the safety of an armistice zone before they could fire on me, but there we were in a good old-fashioned standoff. The problem was that once I left the Armistice Zone, I didn't have enough time to stop the rig, jump into the back turret and get a lock on and fire a missile at him before he could fire at me. If I had a second turret operator, it would have been a different story. It wouldn't have necessarily been a sure thing. I would have had a lot better of a fighting chance with somebody else manning the other turret. However, if you were looking to protect an outpost or any other ground-based location, then this vehicle could be parked somewhere and easily be run by a single person. Because if you're not driving, you can focus all your attention on operating the turret, and that really only requires one person to do. Having two people would be nice if you could take turns watching out for trouble, but it really isn't a necessity. This vehicle was created to be the definitive answer in anti-aircraft defense. It's designed to have a range that exceeds any other fighter craft or any other vehicle that's currently in the game right now. Well, on top of that, it has a rather small IR and EM signature. A lot of this is simply based on the fact that it's a vehicle, and vehicles are going to have a significantly less detectable signature than aircraft. That alone is going to give the Ballista the ability to detect and fire upon a ship before they can be discovered by the incoming aircraft. In the future, the range at which you're going to be able to fire on a target from is going to be primarily based on the EM signature that you get off of a ship. It is not going to be based on some arbitrarily static number. So the larger the ship, the higher the signature is going to have, and the further away you're going to be able to detect and fire upon it from. Almost half of a ship's existing EM and IR signatures comes from its engines, and almost the rest of the signature is generated by its shields. The Ballista doesn't have any engines at all, and its shields in comparison to a ship's doesn't even equal that of a single small shield generator. Another hidden talent of the Ballista is that the lock-on time for its missiles are going to be faster than you normally see in a ship, especially considering the size of the missiles that it has. The amount of ordnance that the Ballista is packing is going to be good enough to take out most kinds of ships, with exception to something like a capital-class vessel. At one point I experimented by unloading all my missiles into a hammerhead at one time, but didn't even manage to dent the shields. Maybe I just need to bring more ballistas next time. The intention behind this vehicle is to allow a player to be able to defend an outpost, claim an area, and deny others from landing at it, or even anywhere near it. And this really feels like a step in the right direction when it comes to taking back the skies from the air superiority that ships have demonstrated up until now. So far I've done a few preliminary tests with this vehicle, and although it comes equipped with 2 shield generators, it should be noted that they're both size 0s, which is the classification for a vehicle-sized shield. And having 2 of them still doesn't equal having 1 small shield. To put into perspective, most small fighters come with at least 2 small shield generators. For my tests, I found that a small fighter that has 3 size 3 hardpoints can tear through the Ballista's shields and its hull in practically no time. But consequently, the Ballista holds up pretty good against any other vehicle-sized mounted weaponry that it's attacked by. And the twin size 2 gun turrets does a good job at cutting down any other vehicles that are trying to threaten it. The downside to the Ballista so far is that we don't have anything in-game that could possibly transport it. So for the time being, it's going to be confined to driving around outposts and other areas that surround places where you can spawn it from. But that's a right now problem. And in the future, we already know of 2 ships that are going to be able to transport it, including the Hercules and the SRV. And who knows what else is going to be revealed from Anvil in the future that could act as a possible vehicle transport. Another negative thing about this vehicle is that it can be very difficult to navigate through any kind of rocky or hilly terrain. Even small rocks can trip up the tires, and it has a wide turning radius to have to contend with. The distance from point A to point B that you're traveling can often turn into a labyrinth of small rocks that require you to carefully navigate your way through them, backtrack your progress, or to not be able to get through at all. It's slow to accelerate and it loses momentum extremely fast when going uphill, so it can't handle going up the same type of steep inclines that something like the Cyclone can handle traveling over. Before you say it, I completely get what kind of vehicle it's supposed to be, and I know that it only makes sense for it to behave this way. It's supposed to feel like it has a lot of weight to it, and that's because it does. It's meant to be dropped off at the location that it's supposed to defend. but it also has the mobility to be able to change its position if need be, or move to another location altogether if the need arises. Overall, this vehicle seems like it'd be a great addition to any ground force, and so far it's the definitive answer in surface-to-air warfare. The downsides are its limitations on what kinds of terrain it can travel over, its overall speed, and the fact that nothing in the game can transport it for the time being. If you own this vehicle, then it would make sense for you to also invest the money into owning something that could transport it, or at least plan on being affiliated with a group that has access to plenty of vehicle transport ships. The Ballista is complete overkill if you're looking for a vehicle to generally putz around in, but it's going to be an absolute necessity for any ground force that intends to lay claim to a piece of territory and intends on defending it against airstrikes. It's a vehicle for people who are very much going to be a part of the ground warfare aspect of Star Citizen. For me, the Ballista represents a huge step in the right direction when it comes to equaling out the differences between ground and air superiority. The Ballista is designed primarily for being placed on and defending a particular area from airborne threats, and for now it seems to hold a superior position over the air from the ground. If the enemy wants to come take your surface-to-air defenses out, then they're going to have to come in by land and try to take them out using their own allotment of ground vehicles. This creates a need for dropships to go in low, hug the terrain, and get close enough to release a ground strike force that would go in on foot, and take those emplacements out before the rest of the wing could fly in for the attack. It is in essence creating more realistic gameplay, and more diversity in the tactics are going to be needed during ground-to-air, air-to-ground, and even ground-to-ground battles. Next, I'd love to see a heavy gun version of the Ballista that could have a variety of different guns, or rather cannon-like weapons mounted onto it, which would include large versions of long-range weapons like the Tachyon cannon, or some large distortion weapon that could be used to knock out a ship's defensive capabilities. I'd like to thank everyone who's been liking my videos and subscribing to the channel, and a special thanks goes out to my backers who, without their help, I wouldn't be able to continue making videos. I've been your host, Law of the West. Thanks for watching, and take care.
Check fire. Check fire. Check fire. Check fire. Check fire.
With Volcom in it?
Well, he can't get out.
Well, I don't know. Is there anything we could use him for while he's in there?
It is kind of a mercy killing.
That's why I asked before I just did it. Oh, I heard that.
Are you in there, Law? Oh, that one's not messed up. Okay.
Yeah, I just clearing up some garbage. Ooh.
Rest in peace, Volcom.
Oh,
We didn't get to see if the turrets would lock on.
Get the gray cat. Get the gray. Watch the gray cat. Oh yeah.
The gray cat hardly knew.